Mangwanani Mwalelepo Vukenjani Kwaswanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Betty and Diana Master. How are you, Diana?
I'm doing well, Ashwin. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I feel good.
You feel good?
Yeah.
I mean, like you were saying earlier, it's going to be a full moon.
It is a full moon,
Okay.
actually. So, that means different things to different people.
Exactly.
For others, it's just a big light in the sky. For others, it's a time to release pent-up energy. And for others, it's a time to watch your emotions.
Oh, I'm definitely going to be watching my emotions.
And for P. Diddy, it's a time to run.
It's a time to run.
You can check that story in Smell the Coffee.
Yes,
Yeah.
But now getting into what you can expect in Africa Good Morning's broadcast, Senegal has a new president, and President Hakainde Hichilema ranked among the top 5 best performing African leaders. Parliament passes a law to prohibit payment of compound interest by state, and prosecutors allege South Africa's Parliament Speaker took $135,000 and a wig in bribes. But we'll be bringing you all of these stories a little later on. For now, we'll be taking a quick ad break and getting straight into that when we get back.
Getting into our top stories, Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema has earned recognition as one of Africa's top 5 performing leaders, as reported by Business Day. The president secured the 5th spot on the list, with notable leaders like Abdel Fattah el-Sisi of Egypt claiming the top position, followed by Samia Hassan of Tanzania and Paul Kagame of Rwanda. According to the publication, upon his election in 2021, President Hichilema inherited a struggling economy and a nation divided, adding that he swiftly tackled corruption and prioritized economic diversification, emphasizing accountability and transparency. The publication further notes that under his leadership, Zambia's economic revival shows promise, particularly with a focus on agriculture, renewable energy, and attracting international investment.
Now in Ghana, a law to prohibit the payment of compound interest by the state in transactions entered into or on behalf by public officers has been passed by Parliament and assented to by the President. The law, the Contracts Amendment Act of 2023, sponsored by the Attorney General and Minister of Justice Godfred Yeboah Dame in 2023, was passed by Parliament in July 2023, but was presented to the President for his assent only on March 5th, 2024, who duly assented to it March 8th, 2024. According to the Attorney General, the law seeks to curb the inadmissible tendency on the part of public officers to enter into contracts with high rates of interest, especially compound interest, which result in huge financial loss to the state. This important amendment to the Contracts Act was motivated by observations he made in various actions in which he defended the state in huge judgment debt cases.
Now, South African prosecutors said that they intend to charge the Parliament Speaker with corruption, alleging that she took $135,000 and a wig in bribes over 3 years while she was Defense Minister. Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula has not been arrested or charged. The prosecutor spoke at a court hearing over her claims that authorities hadn't properly informed her of allegations or followed the correct procedure. The judge was expected to rule on a stay of arrest later on Monday. In court papers submitted for the hearing, prosecutors say Mapisa-Nqakula received 11 payments totaling $135,000 between December 2016 and July 2019. She sought another bribe of $105,000, but that wasn't paid, prosecutors said. On one occasion in February 2019, Mapisa-Nqakula received more than $15,000 and a wig at her meeting at the country's main international airport, the papers say.
Now, Kenya missed its target of commissioning the $309.26 million electricity transmission line with Tanzania, delaying the start of the power exchange between the two economies. The Kenya Electricity Transmission Company Limited, KETRACO, revealed that the commissioning of the line was extended to next month at the earliest from an earlier target of December last year. Energy Cabinet Secretary Davis Chichir had earlier said that the line would be completed and commissioned by December last year, a target that was missed amid delays on the Kenyan side. The 507.5 kilometer line has an intended transfer capacity of 2,000 megawatts and is set to allow the two countries to sell excess electricity to one another, besides tapping hydropower from neighboring Ethiopia through a regional power pool.
Now, Senegal opposition candidate Bassirou Diomaye Faye has been declared the country's next president after his rival from the ruling coalition called him on Monday to concede defeat. Now, results trickling in since polls closed on Sunday evening in the first round of a delayed presidential election rapidly suggested Faye, 44, may have clinched an outright majority. Now, the trends announced on local media sparked street celebrations by his supporters in the capital, Dakar. Ruling coalition candidate Amadou Ba, 62, initially called these celebrations premature and said a runoff vote would be needed to determine the winner. But he then called Faye on Monday to offer his congratulations, a government spokesman told journalists. Faye becomes one of the youngest presidents ever in Africa at 44 years old.
And now, rounding off our top stories, Boeing boss Dave Calhoun will leave at the end of this year amid a deepening crisis over the firm's safety record. Boeing also said that the head of its commercial airlines division will retire immediately, while its chairman will not stand for re-election. The firm is under pressure after an unused door blew out of a Boeing 737 MAX in January, shortly after takeoff. No one was injured, but the firm's safety and quality control standards came under renewed scrutiny. Calhoun took on the chief executive role in early 2020 after the previous boss, Dennis Muilenburg, was ousted in the aftermath of one of the biggest scandals in its history. Within the space of 5 months, two brand new 737 MAX planes had been lost in almost identical accidents that claimed the lives of 346 passengers and crew. When Calhoun took over, he promised to strengthen Boeing's safety culture and rebuild trust. However, in January this year, a disused emergency exit door blew off a new Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 MAX shortly after takeoff from Portland International Airport. An initial report from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board concluded that 4 bolts meant to attach the door securely to the aircraft had not been fitted. Boeing is reportedly facing a criminal investigation into the incident itself, as well as legal action from passengers aboard the plane.
Those have been our top stories on Africa. Good morning. After the break, we talked to Mike Sichula about President Hakainde Hichilema being named one of the top 5 leaders in Africa, and other stories stemming from Zambia.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
Now, as Ashwin highlighted earlier on, we'll now be crossing over to Zambia to speak to Mr. Mike Sichula just to get an update on all the latest stories stemming from that side. Mr. Sichula, good morning.
Good morning, and Africa, good morning to our dear viewers.
Now let's get straight into your top stories. President Hakainde Hichilema is among other African leaders who have been named as a top performing leaders by an online publication. I mean, we briefly highlighted the story earlier, but could you give us some more details?
Yeah, so according to online publication called Business Day, President Hakainde Hichilema is 5th behind President of Rwanda, behind also President of Egypt, and also the President of Tanzania and the Seychelles. So this accolade comes just some weeks ago when Zambia again was ranked amongst the best African countries in terms of upholding democracy. So this, according to members of the UPND party, they are saying that this demonstrates that President Hakainde Hichilema is leading the way in terms of his agenda for economic transformation ever since he took office. It is something that they have been saying a lot of good things and calling on the opposition political parties to ensure that they also give President Hakainde Hichilema support, because he means well for the country. Because if the global community can recognize his achievements, then also local people politically must give him all the accolades so that he can perform better for the benefits of all Zambians.
Understandably so. I mean, I doubt Edgar Lungu would congratulate him for turning around an economy he may have compromised. But more or less staying with the same subject, because one of the issues that Hakainde Hichilema was immediately straddled with was Zambia's looming debt. Now, Zambia and Eurobond holders have reached an agreement to restructure their $3.5 billion debt. More details, please.
According to the Zambia External Bondholders Steering Committee, the agreement follows a government's confirmation the terms of the 2024 agreement are compatible with Zambia's official creditors committee assessment of the Zambia. So the committee says the agreement provides some debt relief and will allow the standing default on the Euro bonds to be cured. So the statement also said Zambia will be entitled again to 2 new Euro bonds to be issued, which will provide future debt relief with Zambia's economic progress in the next few years. So the IMF, the World Bank have congratulated Zambia on this achievement, and also President Hakainde Hichilema yesterday posted and assured Zambians that with this debt restructuring in place, then his economic agenda for Zambia is on track. So it is now the expectations of ordinary citizens to see what this debt restructuring means for them in their kitchens and also in their businesses. So we are yet to see how this is going to turn out. But in terms of this debt restructuring deal, a number of stakeholders have praised President Hakainde Hichilema, except for a few opposition political party leaders that are not talking about it.
All right, now, Mr. Sishila, on a rather sad note, a 17-year-old boy has been arrested for defiling a 6-year-old girl. Do tell us more.
So the boy is in grade 8, while the child is in grade 2. So on 20th March, he led her to the nearby bush where he was found having carnal knowledge of her by a passerby who apprehended him and reported the incident to school authorities. So this is about this case. They go to the same school. So he took advantage because he found out that she was not doing anything. So he more or less like told her that let's go home, but he had other evil intentions. Then in another related development, a 13-year-old girl has been defiled by a 15-year-old boy, resulting into the victim getting pregnant. So this occurred in Lusaka's densely populated compound, Kanyama. The girl went missing from her parents between February and March. And when she showed up on 23rd March, when parents asked her where she had been, she said that she had been with her boyfriend. So this case has also been reported to police. But when you look at the ages, they are just minor ages, which they have not even been taken into custody. They have to be put under welfare services so that they can get counseling.
Truly saddening. We end your stories in sports as Zambia is set to face hosts Malawi in the Four Nations tournament, which was sanctioned by FIFA. What are the other nations participating in this tournament?
So the other nations participating are Zimbabwe and Kenya. So in the first match, Zambia lost to Zimbabwe on post-match penalties. That
Sorry,
is 6-5.
I didn't quite hear that last result. I'm going to need you to just say it again.
Okay, in the Zambezi derby, Zambia lost to Zimbabwe 6-5 on post-match penalties after the game ended 2-0 in regulation time. Then in the second match, Kenya beat host Malawi by 4-0, hence to set up this final. So Zambia is going to play Malawi, then Kenya is facing Zimbabwe in the finals. So Zambia today, according to Coach Abraham Grant, he wants to believe that he is wishing that his team can win, because after Zambia lost to Zimbabwe, there were a lot of talk because people criticizing. So we are hoping that maybe he's going to do something better, because if he loses again against Malawi, going into the World Cup preparations against Morocco, a number of people are not expecting anything good from this team.
And because there's a lot of connections between Zambia, Malawi, and Zimbabwe, you can only feel like the fans are going to add that much more pressure. Thank you, Mike, for bringing us the news stories from the real Africa.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's absolutely correct, because you wouldn't even know who's supporting Zambia, who is a genuine supporter of Zambia, Malawi, and Zimbabwe, because they are all one people at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll now be taking a look at the weather predictions just before we get into our economic news.
We start our economic news stories in Kenya as Kenyan advertising tycoon Bharat Dakar, known for his role in establishing the WPP scam group, has taken legal action against WPP PLC, the UK-based parent company, and its Kenyan subsidiary WPP Scan Group, along with their directors. This development comes after his suspension from the company in 2021 and his announcement in February of intentions to sue WPP for 24 million euros. According to Billionaires Africa, Dakar, who founded Scanad in 1982 and rebranded it into WPP Scan Group in 2013, alleges that WPP's actions have tarnished his reputation and inflicted emotional distress through defamatory statements.
Now, the UN Security Council on Monday demanded an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian militants, Hamas, and the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages after the US abstained from the vote. The remaining 14 council members voted for the resolution, which was proposed by the 10 elected members of the body. Washington had been averse to the word ceasefire earlier in the nearly 6-month-old war in the Gaza Strip, and it used its veto power to shield US ally Israel as it retaliated against Hamas for an October 7th attack that Israel says killed 1,200 people. But amid growing global pressure for a truce in the war that has killed more than 32,000 Palestinians, the US abstained from the vote on Monday to allow the Security Council to demand an immediate ceasefire for the month of Muslim fasting, month of Ramadan, which ends in 2 weeks. It also demands the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages.
Very interesting. Sounds like a positive step in the right direction, but Ramadan only lasts an extra 2 weeks. So the ceasefire is for 2 weeks, and one wonders if that will be sufficient. And the answer is probably no. We'll see how that unfolds. Let's head to the indicators just before Ari brings us the sport.
Good day, everyone. Time for international sports news, and starting off with golf news first, and it is Nelly Korda of United States. That's a new world number one. That is after winning the Fur Hills Seripak Championship over the weekend, and that was the 10th career victory for Nelly Korda in a professional career, only becoming the 39th player ever to achieve 10 world titles or international titles on the PGA Tour. It was Nelly Korda that played in a playoff against Ryan O'Toole. It was Ryan O'Toole and Nelly Korda finished the 4 rounds on the same total, and it's then Nelly Korda that birdied the first playoff hole to win the title. Number 2 in the world at the moment will be Lydia Vu, and number 3 will be Céline Boultier of France. That's got a good season on the European Tour. The best placed South African on the world rankings at the moment is Ashley Buhai, and she is number 25 in the world. That's the best placed Southern African player at the moment. She finished tied 27th at the Fur Hills Seripak Championship. That was with a 4-round total of -1. Moving on to MotoGP, that is motorcycle racing news, and it is South African Brad Binder that's having a great season. That was the second race over the weekend, the Portuguese Grand Prix. It was Brad Binder that finished 4th, and now after 2 races he's second on the standings at the moment. First is Jorge Martin on 60 points, and he won the Portuguese Grand Prix the past weekend, and Brad Binder's got 42 points after 2 races, and that's followed by Elio Bastianini of Italy. He's got 39 points, and the next Grand Prix will be the Grand Prix of the Americas, so there's no Grand Prix this coming weekend. On Easter weekend it will be the 14th of April. That will be the date for the next one, the Grand Prix of the Americas. And closing off today's international sports news with tennis news, it's the Miami Open. It's the men and women top players in the world competing there. It is week 2 this week. The finals will be this coming weekend, and it is on the men's side of the draw. The top 3 seeds safely through in the first week. They survived up to the round of 32. They're into the round of 16. It is Carlos Alcaraz that beat Roberto Benu 6-2, 6-1. He's the number 1 seed. Then number 2 seed is Yannick Sinner. He beat Tallon Griekspoor in a tough 3-setter, and then it was a number 3 seed, that is Daniel Medvedev, also safely through to the round of 16. He beat Cameron Norrie of Great Britain by 7-5 and 6-2. Not good news for number 6 seed, that is Holger Rune. He lost against Fabian Moranzo of Hungary, and it was 6-1 and 6-1 the win there for Moranze. On the women's side of the draw, it is the number 2 seed that's out of the tournament, Aryna Sabalenka. She lost in the round of 32, but the number 1 seed, Iga Swiatek, safely through to the round of 16. Then 2 Americans that's doing well at the moment. It is Jessica Pegula, the number 5 seed. She beat Leila Fernandez of Canada by 7-5 and 6-4. And then Coco Gauff, number 3 seed. She's also through, beating Oceana Dodden of France. And the score there was 6-4 and 6-love, also through to the round of 16. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we'll talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
You're still with Africa. Good morning. For those of you that are just joining us, let's take a look at the highlights from today's broadcast. Senegal opposition candidate Bassirou Diomaye Faye has been declared the country's next president. UN Security Council gives nod to resolution for immediate Gaza ceasefire. And Kenyan advertising mogul files a $30.2 million lawsuit against UK firm over expulsion.
Those have been our stories on Africa Good Morning, DSTV 285, GoTV 251up2.com, and YouTube is exactly where you can find us. From Diana Master and Ashwin Berry.